All right. Anyway, let us begin. I for the past 7 months, let's say, at least 7 months, I have been dreaming, dreaming and scheming and hoping. And I expected that when I approached this video, that I would come with exuberant joy, excitement. But here I am. I'm actually approaching this video with a broken heart and some significant anxiety. And that's just the way it is. It's the way life goes. You can't always know what's going to happen, what's coming next. And I can't even say that I didn't know. Of course, I didn't know because you never really know. But from the beginning of my dreamings and schemings, I did express some fear of this exact predicament I find myself in. And so I did know that it was a possibility. I was just hoping that things would work out differently. And they haven't. So I'm just gonna begin this process here, this first video. Even though things aren't going well. And who knows? Things can turn. Hopefully things will turn. To explain my predicament, and well, first I'll say that this channel was intended to express gratitude and joy for a dream that I've had for many years that was so close, so close. So the title is going to be A Million Dreams, and I'll explain that title as we go. Anyway, my predicament. My predicament is, I'll start from the beginning, which goes back to my childhood. Most of my childhood, I grew up as the fifth child, third daughter in a large family of 14 children. My parents had 7 sons and 7 daughters. It was wild and fun, but we had a tendency to move around a lot. I think partly because my father, who was born and raised in the state of Maine, had always wanted to return there. And so go here and go there. And there was never like a feeling of satisfaction. And then also, as time went by, more and more children coming, and so you're improving your situation, improving the size of the home and the income you're trying to make. And so there was a lot of changes that took place in my childhood growing up, and we moved around a lot. I attended 3 different high schools, and I can't even remember how many elementary schools, but a number of those too. Anyway, I didn't like it. I didn't like moving around a lot. I didn't like always being the new kid in school. I didn't like changing homes. I really didn't like it. I didn't like feeling like a gypsy. Since I was probably about the age of 15, I had decided that one day I was going to buy a house. I was going to buy a house and I was going to stay there. I was going to become part of a community, become somebody that my neighbors knew, because I'd been there a long time, that I knew who they were. And I was going to buy a house. That's what I wanted. Anyway, years down the road, I actually did buy a house. I got married, had a couple of children, and we bought a house together in the beautiful state of Maine. But unfortunately, that marriage was not a good one, and it did not last. And therefore, my beautiful house in the state of Maine also, with the divorce, the house went. And I found myself a single mom. And at that point, a similar thing as my childhood. We moved around a lot, trying to finish school, always trying to improve the situation for my kids. And so it just took us from one place to the next, and we moved around a lot. But it was all done with the hope of being able one day to make things stable and the best possible. Anyway, in 2013, we ended up moving back to Maine. I worked as a substitute teacher for many years because it allowed me time with my kids. But, partially due to things that happened during my marriage and divorce, my credit was shot. There was no way. We always had that dream. I used to talk about my dream of buying a house with my kids. And we dream about the kind of house we wanted and where we would like to live. And, the idea of belonging to a place, to say this was our town. It was a dream I've always wanted. Anyway, I'm gonna cry. It's gonna make me laugh instead. Anyway, I at one point along the way there, this is where my million dreams comes in. I actually took my kids to see The Greatest Showman. I was very excited, but trepidation about the movie because I like P.T. Barnum, and I was fearful that the world would, Hollywood would turn him into something ugly. But they didn't. I actually really liked the movie. They had a few things but generally, I really liked the movie. But the biggest thing was that song. When that song came on, it was like it changed me as a person. Million Dreams, it's hard to explain, but by the end of that song in that movie, I was like ugly crying in the theater as I was realizing, because I used to always tell my kids, oh, it's just a dream, you guys. There's no way I can buy a house. There's no way I'm gonna be able to buy a house. It would take, a million miracles for me to be able to buy a house. And then here it was, the song expressing this optimistic dream of a million dreams. It's kind of like a million hopes, a million miracles, a million dreams. It takes a million dreams. And I remember thinking to myself at the time, have I dreamed a million dreams? Or do I still have a few to go before it's a million dreams away? Maybe now I'm only 500,000 dreams away. Maybe I'm getting there. But I'm still moving towards that dream through these many dreams along the way. Well, anyway, so it inspired me. And I actually went after that and I took a class on how to prepare to buy a house. And in doing so, I realized that I wasn't that far away, that there were things I could do to repair my credit. There were things I could do, and that I wasn't that far off of qualifying for a home loan. Well, so I did. I got to work And I think that was like, can't remember. I really can't remember when I first took that class, but it was February of 2020 that I got the letter that I had qualified for a home loan. And it was a day, it was so exciting, this idea that, and my budget was small. I wasn't certainly didn't go out and buy a $1 million house, but but it was possible. And in the state of Maine, it's possible to buy a cheaper home. So we went out looking, we started hunting, but of course, 2020, we all know what happened in 2020. So February of 2020, it was still kind of this off there in other places, COVID thing. But even by March, things were shut down in the United States and things were going crazy. And that's kind of what happened. COVID got us and things went wild. And then there were all these people coming up from New Jersey and New York, who were now working from home, these remote work, and they were buying up houses in Maine because they wanted to be out in the countryside. And so they would come and offer these, more than asking prices, cash offers for all these houses. And so literally, oh man, it was so frustrating. Anyway, my kids and I, because the lease in our apartment ran out because we were supposed to be moving into a house, and we didn't have a house yet because we couldn't. Anyway, so we ended up homeless from the end of August through February of next year, as we were trying to buy a house during COVID. It's crazy. It was a really hard experience, actually, for me and for my children. My daughter started high school during that. It was just stressful, really stressful. But we did eventually find a home. And in February of 2021, we moved in to this cute little house. Oh, I was going to shoot it on the screen. Now I can't see it. Oh, it's not there. Ah, I got it. There it is. Now I got it in the skin. Anyway, here's my little house. That is a cute little house. A sweet little 3-bedroom. I was going to show my later pictures of the backyard. Yeah, look at all that work. The grass isn't covered in as much yet. My garden. And the house sits right on the river, in the Kennebec River. This is the backyard, at the very back. Anyway, so we bought this house in February of 2021. And it was my intent to stay here forever. We did a lot, and these are pictures after I've lived in it for 4.5 years. And so we did a lot of work. I bought the house and it needed a lot of work. And so, but we had fun. And we did a lot of work. We cleaned it up, fixed it up, painted it up, repaired the stairs. The backyard was like someone had used it as their personal dump. That was like trash. It was very sad, very sad. But anyway, we cleaned it up. We've had a jolly time, and I really planned on living here forever. I had plans on building me an art studio and a little library upstairs. Anyway, and then I found out last spring So spring of 2024. Spring of 2024. That the state of Maine was planning on building a 4-lane commuter bridge, either right through my house or right beside my house. I was devastated. And I talked to everybody I could. I tried to find it. I tried everything. And the only thing that happened is they did say that they were going to build the bridge beside my house and have it go across through this field and parking lot over here, rather so they wouldn't have to take homes. But I don't want to live by a 4-lane commuter bridge. You know, so noisy, traffic constantly. And they specifically want to build a bridge to divert big rigs from going through town, directly through the little town that we live in. And can you imagine big rigs zooming by right by your house all day long? Because they do, the traffic lessens some at night, but those big rigs are going through town all night long. And so it didn't really comfort me any to have the bridge go beside my house rather than through it. I almost would rather them go through it, because then they would have just paid me for my house and let me move on. But now instead, I had to try to sell my house and move on. And that was the struggle. Is that so we ended up deciding to do that, to just put the house up on for sale, see if anybody else was willing to live by a commuter bridge and move on. And I found this home in Sumner. And it's one of those things where you might think I'm crazy. Oh, there it is. I call it the ghost house. If you look at the house straight on, you really might think any moment, even now, if you look at it, that some apparition might pass one of those windows. You'd see some ghost living in there. But we decided to go look at it because it was in my price range. And although it looks really bad in these pictures, and it looks really bad in person to the outside, it's just dried up and shriveled. But when you stepped inside, it was so beautiful, so peaceful, and it was so preserved, just beautifully preserved. And it had never been hooked up to water or electricity. So it was like stepping back in time, and it just untouched by the world. And I wanted it. It was like the dream of my life. I loved the old colonial style, a big rectangle with windows that line up perfectly. The big double doors in the middle. And when you go inside, you just had this big stairway that went straight up the center of the home, and everything kind of built around that, and a lovely barn in the back, connected barn. And in the barn, the very back of the barn, it had the double cedar outhouse, the privy, that was in this cute. Well, it was actually pretty cute. Anyway, it was delightful. Since we first saw it in January, oh, I just fell in love with it, and I wanted it. And I had such plans on getting water and power to it, but in a way that didn't distract from its feeling of being untouched by the world. So it would have been disguised. And it was going to be beautiful. It's going to be beautiful. Anyway, as you can see, that it's closed. So, that's part of my dilemma. So I put my house up for sale in January, early January, with the hope that I would be able to sell it by March, April, and then purchased this home in Sumner. And have all summer, spring and summer to prepare it for winter. You know, kind of living in a camp for a while, really, because there was no, anyway. But as we all know, the economy kind of went stagnant almost immediately. And as I was talking with my agent in preparation to put my house up for sale, he was telling me how houses were selling like crazy. They were selling before they got on the market, and that he expected that my house would sell. And of course, my location is a small town. And so he said, it might take longer than if I was 20 minutes from the big city, but about 40 minutes from the big city. So that's why I thought March, April, we could do it. I figured and my agent thought so too. But within a few weeks into January, boom, the economy went crazy and it kind of went stagnant, and the housing market totally flipped. Interest rates went up, and instead of being a seller's market, it quickly turned to I couldn't even say a buyer's market because nobody was buying. But if anybody was going to gain from the situation, it was the buyer, because it's been hard to sell, and so people are offering lower, so you're getting less. Anyway, that's the situation. That was the situation. So since January, I've been checking on that Sumner house every like 2 weeks, sometimes more than that. Started dreaming specifically about what we would do and how we could revive the space. Anyway, here we are, the end of July. And about 4 days ago, I finally got a real offer on my home here, my little cottage. And I immediately I was on the phone with my agent, and we went to the Sumner house saying, let's put an offer on that now, because, well, as soon as we opened it up, we could see that it said closed. And what do you know? Like 5 days before, probably the day after I checked on it last, it had gone through a very quick cash sale. So within a couple of days from the offer to the closing, it was gone. Here I am with the offer, and the offer in my home was full price, which I didn't expect. And so I was like, whoa, yeah, take that. Get my house in Sumner. It's happening. It's happening. I really just thought, oh, this is this. And then, no, it's not happening. Well, I decided in the moment, because you kind of, what are you going to do? When someone makes an offer, you have a certain amount of time to accept it. So I decided to accept it in the hopes that I could find something else in the timeline. And the closing for my home is supposed to be August 29th, which is way quicker than I thought it would be anyway. I guess depending on the funding you've got, it can go quicker. So August 29th is our supposed closing date. And I went ahead and accepted the offer because we had been waiting for so long. I don't want to live by that commuter bridge. Anyway, I do want to get out. I don't want to live by that commuter bridge. That's supposed to start this coming spring. So here I am. August 29th. This home will belong to someone else. And I don't have any place to go. The past couple of days, I've been looking and looking and looking for another home within my budget. And I know it's going to be a fixer-upper. That's just the way it is. But ultimately, I want a fixer-upper has actually been a dream of mine for a long time too, probably since my early 20s. Just the idea of that old family home, the memories, the history that goes into a home that has lasted so long. And my family has moved around so much. There's no old family home. There's no old family home for me to inherit. So I have to take somebody else's. And I want that. I want an older home that has had history and that needs someone to come along and love it again. I want to be the one to love it again. I really don't even want an old home that's already been refurbished. I really would like one that I could just put myself into. And for a long time, like my home here, it was built in like 1940. So it's not new, but it's not as old as I'd like. But it's still got some old charm to it, separate from really modern homes. I'm really not into modern homes. I'm not into modern style. I'm not contemporary. I don't like open concepts for one thing. All modern homes are like one big room. I don't like that. I like separate individual rooms. I like a good flow within those rooms, but what's one thing about my little house here? It has a good flow. You can just walk between the living room, dining room, kitchen easily with the archways and stuff, but they're still very distinctive spaces, individual spaces. But anyway, so I am looking for something, but there just isn't anything left. There's nothing left out there that is within my budget. Once I have it all said and done, I will have about 70,000. And because I'm a student and my work is work study as a student, it doesn't qualify for a home loan. I ended up quitting my job and going back to school, which has been wonderful. I am so excited about that. I'll graduate December, move on to grad school. And but it does leave me in a little bit of a pickle here because I can't get a home loan. So I have to buy something I can buy for cash, which actually is the kind of home I want to buy. Those kinds that you buy for cash. But there's just nothing out there in my price range. And so I'm getting really discouraged. I'm getting discouraged about it. I have about a month to find a home, offer on it, and close on it before I end up homeless again, which will just not be fun. That's my dilemma. Is I've sold my house and I haven't found another one. I sold my house. So somehow I gotta find one. So these next couple of weeks will be house hunting. House hunting and trying to find something that is I want to get something that I love, that I can just put all that work into and love it. That's my dream. The next dream. How many dreams more I have to go? I just don't know. But I don't think I've been to 1 million yet. So I think I've got some dreaming yet to go. 1 million dreams. There's a house we can build. Every room inside is filled with things from far away. And I guess just have to see what happens. Just have to see what happens next? What is going to happen next? Hopefully something exciting. Hopefully something exciting.